Imagine this. You're a successful black CEO, all set for a well-deserved first-class flight, when suddenly you're told you can't board. Not because of anything you've done wrong, but because of the color of your skin. That's exactly what happened to one powerful businesswoman when she was denied access to her first-class seat. The frustration, the humiliation, it was a slap in the face. But what happened next? One phone call, and everything changed. This is the story of a woman who wasn't just going to let this injustice slide. With the strength of a leader, she took matters into her own hands, confronting the airline in a way that no one saw coming. The moment she made that call, the tables turned, and she put the airline on blast in a way that left them scrambling. But the question is, how did she do it, and what were the consequences? Stay tuned as we dive into this shocking story and see how one determined CEO fought back against discrimination in the most unexpected way. Trust me, you won't want to miss how this all unfolds before we dive into the aftermath. Let's take a step back. The CEO, a woman who had worked tirelessly to build her multi-million-dollar company, had earned every right to that first-class seat. She wasn't just any ordinary businesswoman. She was a trailblazer, a force in her industry. But on this particular day, as she approached the gate, her confidence quickly turned to confusion. She was told her ticket wasn't valid for first class, despite her having all the proper documentation and a confirmed reservation. When she tried to explain, the airline staff seemed indifferent, brushing her off with vague excuses. The more she spoke up, the more she felt the cold reality of how she was being treated. She knew this wasn't just a simple mistake. This was about something bigger. She was being targeted, dismissed, simply because of who she was. Her frustration boiled over, but instead of reacting out of anger, she chose a different path. She knew her position, her influence, and the power she held. After all, she'd worked hard to break barriers in an industry where people like her weren't always welcomed with open arms. But would that power be enough to make a difference here? Would one phone call really change everything? As the CEO stood there, feeling the weight of the moment, she realized this wasn't just about her flight. It was about something far more significant. The way she was treated, the subtle yet unmistakable sense of being judged, was a feeling all too familiar for many people of color in positions of power. She'd faced barriers. She ended the call, but the tension remained. Her thoughts raced, wondering if it was enough. What if the airline didn't take her seriously? What if the powerful people behind the scenes ignored her? Everything she had worked for, her reputation, her company, could be at risk. But there was no turning back now. The clock was ticking, and she knew the fight had only just begun. Minutes felt like hours as she waited, her eyes stayed fixed on the gate, where she could still see the staff moving around, oblivious to the storm about to hit them. Then her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from her ally, a single line that made her heart race. "It's done." Her heart pounded as she read the message. It's done. But before she could let out a sigh of relief, something unexpected happened. Just as she was about to return to the counter to find out what was going on, a manager from the airline suddenly appeared in front of her, holding a clipboard with a stern expression. "We've received some new instructions from corporate," he said, his voice clipped, his eyes avoiding hers. "I'm afraid you'll have to come with me for further clarification." She was taken aback. After everything, she thought the situation was handled, but this felt different. The manager didn't give her a choice. He led her away from the gate, out of sight from the other passengers, where she was met by a team of security officers. Her confusion grew into suspicion. Something wasn't right. Had they already found a way to silence her before the full weight of her call had even settled? They began asking her questions, probing her identity and business dealings, their tone less than welcoming. Then, in a twist that left her reeling, the manager spoke again, his words hitting like a ton of bricks. "We've been instructed to ensure you don't board this flight, no matter what." She felt the room close in on her, her pulse quickening. What had she gotten herself into? And who was behind all this? Was this the corporate backlash she had feared, or something far more sinister? Her mind raced, her body tense with anger and disbelief. What was going on? The security team's cold stares made it clear they weren't going to let her go without a fight. But just as she was about to speak up, her phone buzzed again. It was the ally she'd called earlier. She answered quickly, her voice shaky but determined. "They're trying to stop me from boarding," she said, her words barely escaping her lips. Without hesitation, her ally spoke with authority, his voice calm but firm. "Do not engage with them. Trust me, you're about to get the last laugh. Stay where you are." As the seconds ticked by, she felt the power shift. The airline's manager seemed to grow more nervous, looking at his phone in rapid succession. His confident demeanor had disappeared, replaced by uncertainty. He glanced up at her, then back down at his phone again, his hand shaking slightly. Something was happening behind the scenes, something that neither he nor the security team had anticipated. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the tide turned. The manager's phone buzzed one final time, and he looked at her, his face pale. "The situation has been resolved," he muttered, almost in disbelief. The security officers stepped back, their faces now neutral, no longer blocking her path. The tension in the air was palpable as she stood there, trying to process what had just unfolded. But as she walked toward the gate, a final twist hit her. As she passed the desk, the manager's voice followed her. "Just so you know, your flight has been upgraded." The irony hit her hard. It was a gesture that felt empty now, like a final attempt to patch up a wound that ran too deep. She didn't even look back. She'd won, but the victory was bittersweet. She had taken on the system, and for a moment, it had buckled. But in the back of her mind, a question lingered. What had really happened behind the scenes? Who had stepped in to make it all go away? The pieces didn't quite fit together, and as she boarded her flight, she couldn't help but wonder just how high this battle reached. As she settled into her upbraided seat, the weight of what had just happened slowly started to sink in. She had fought back against an injustice, and in a way, she'd won. The flight went smoothly, but her mind kept circling back to the unanswered questions. Who had stepped in to intervene? Was it someone in the airline's upper ranks, or had her ally really pulled strings behind the scenes? The answers remained elusive, but one thing was clear. This wasn't just about one woman's experience. It was about the larger fight for equality and respect in spaces where discrimination often hides behind closed doors. Her victory wasn't just personal, it was a message. A message that people in positions of power, whether in business or any other field, had the responsibility to stand up for what's right. And sometimes that meant challenging the system head-on. When she landed, her phone buzzed with messages, thank yous, words of support, and stories from others who had experienced similar discrimination. It was a reminder that her actions had sparked something bigger than herself. This story wasn't just about a CEO. It was about all the voices that had been silenced and needed to be heard. As she walked off the plane, she knew the fight wasn't over, but she had taken a powerful step forward.